application of the experience tracker, and this is my screen one. As you can see, when you open the application, the first thing you're gonna see is this screen, and here it says that in blocks we have that when screen one initialize, this is gonna be, it's gonna give a value or to store that is called, it's gonna be false. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that when we click on button 1, we're gonna open another screen that is called welcome. But first, here we have the button that is called start now. Sorry if you can't see the button. Well, it's a thing of my computer, but well, let's continue. Once you click on welcome, once you click on open on button 1, you're gonna go to the next screen that is called welcome. This screen just have a button and a color here, because when you click this button that is called start spend tracker now, you're gonna go to another screen that is called summary, as you can see. Okay, here we have our summary. In our summary, here we have the first thing we are gonna see is this label that it says add the recent income and expenses. Yes, and here we have two buttons that says, the first one says more income, and the second one the new expenses, the actual summary of our income, expenses, and the balance. And here we have the erase expense tracker and view recent history that I'm gonna explain later. Well, in our blocks, the first thing is that when summary this summary screen opens, the other screen is gonna get closed. And when summary initialize, we have called int. I'm gonna explain this later. And reset. Reset is that for our income. If we put something, we're gonna erase it. In that moment, we click on btn reset. Why? Because if you have something and you don't want to have it more, you're just gonna click on reset and on some income, and that's gonna, all the things that you have on some income are gonna erase. That's the same thing for for the expense and the history. And here we have a format. Well, the format number. This is for decimal numbers. So, this is for the format of a decimal number. That in the get number, that it's a variable. It's our variable here. And here what we have is that when the thing we're gonna replace in that is a text, we're gonna change it by a number, and these ones are gonna be divided with a comma and a dot. And here we have the to init do. That's an abbreviature of initialize that says that we're gonna get the value of income, the incomes that we're gonna get, and the format that is here of the numbers, because it's not gonna be a text, it's gonna be a number. And this is the same thing for the expense. And when we are gonna balance, the thing that we are gonna do is that here we have the format that the format of the numbers, and what we are gonna do is that we are gonna put first the incomes, and we're gonna quit and we are gonna subtract with the expense. So that's basically what these things do, what this application do. I'm gonna talk about the history. Here we have, as you may see, a button that says View Recent History. This button is that when we click on it, we're gonna open another screen name that it's called the same history. And this applies you remember the button reset? Well, the history is a list of the things that you put of your incomes and expense, that all the things you put there. So once you click on the BTN reset, you're gonna erase all your history. And I forget to say, when bottom income, that is this one here, when bottom income, when we click on it, we are open another screen with a start value at expense, with the screen name at expense and the start value of income. And when we click on it on the button expense, we're gonna open the same screen that is called at expense, and but the thing that is gonna change is that inside of being income, we're gonna have an expense. So once we click on one of these buttons, we're gonna go to this one that is called that at expense. So here we have the details of the transaction, and the data that we made the transaction, and we're gonna select the category of the expense, the income type, and the amount we are gonna have. Here we have our variables. For the first thing is that we're gonna have the history, the list of history that we are gonna create. Then we're gonna have a bool expense that is gonna have a true value, and we're gonna have also initialized income and initialized expense with value 0. And here is our list category that can be one of all of these categories that we have here, that are fuel, travel, vacation, house maintenance, vehicle maintenance, bike maintenance, transportation, housing, utilities, school, entertainment, groceries, maintenance, food and computer maintenance. And these are the possible things and that are for our transaction. It's based on why we're having an expense. So, and the expense is about this list, or these possible things that are gonna make us have an expense. Well, and these buttons are for other things like, and here we have return, or button return, that what it's gonna do is close this screen, this actual screen. And when the list picker one, before picking you, in this control button, and what it's gonna do is that, or here it's gonna get our elements of our list category, or the variable global list category. And here is the list picker text, list picker one selection, that we're gonna select one picker. Well, now I'm gonna explain this. When this button that is called, well, sorry, when the screen that is called add spends initialize, we're gonna set the variable of 3 variables that are global history, global sum income, and global sum expense. History, income, and expense. Here we have the list. We're gonna have a list of history, and here we're gonna create an empty list that it's more than one. And here we have the format number of the income and the format number of the expense. And here we're gonna have another button that says if we get the start value, that the start value is gonna be 0. And then we have the expense. After that, we're gonna have set global bool expense to true. That's gonna be true, a value of true. And this is the first action. The second is another that says that when we set global bool expense, we're gonna have a false value. And here we have the conditions that says add spends, title, add income, text amount, height, enter income amount. So when we enter one of these, add income or enter income amount, we're gonna have a false value. And when we get start value, we are gonna have a true value. And this is for the same thing. Okay, now we have this for erasing, or well, it's here we call it like clear. So we have to erase this, and we just click on select date, select category, and we erase it. That's all. The little zeros number, well, these things are for when we get a number, like the first segment test, we get a number plus we get, for example, 100 plus get a number, and we have a start of 2 and length of 2. To format number, here we're gonna replace all the text and we're gonna get a number, and that's what this thing do, but it's gonna be as the format is gonna be as a decimal number, and it's gonna be divided by a comma or a dot, and it only has 2 places. To save, well, when you add the items to your history, you're gonna make a list, and you're gonna have the text of your list. If you get global bool expense or your expense, you're gonna have your text. Then you're gonna have a format of numbers, and here it says that if we get an expense, then we have a text of amount and text, and we are gonna multiply it by -1, because we're gonna have this new format. Then we have this, that is practically the same as this thing, but with plus and plus, and with income and expense, to add income and expense. This is our list of history and our income and expense. And for ending with the add expense screen, we are gonna have when we click on the bottom submit, this button, what we are going to do is that we're going to hide a keyboard. We're going to select a date. When we click on the bottom submit, our date that we choose, the message, you're gonna have a notifier that says please first select a date if you didn't put anything, or data validation and button text. This means that if we don't put anything on our date, select date, we're gonna have a message, and then the title of that message is gonna be data validation, and once it appears, you're just gonna click on OK, and you need to put your date, and also for category and income and amount. If you don't put anything on income, amount, category, and date, and this is what is gonna happen. You're gonna have this message, and you gonna have a button that it's okay, and you're not gonna be able to submit this until you put everything you need to put on date, income, message, and amount, and income, amount, and yeah. Now we're gonna go to the history to our history. Well, I forget to say, here we have a go back to summary, that when we click on it, on this button, we're gonna go back to this screen that is called summary. And here what I'm gonna talk about is the do you remember I didn't talk about the history, or well, specifically on the screen of history? Well, that's what I'm gonna do now. Well, here we have our screen that we have a label that says history details of the things we have put in our recent history. And here we have our blocks. Well, the first thing, when we're gonna have our variable that says initialized global list to make a list from CSV row text date type and amount. When history initialize, when this is referring to our screen, this screen, when we open this screen, we are gonna have this development and true value, and here's our files of app inventor assets table HTML, file Android asset table HTML, and that's the first thing. Then we have this for create that it's gonna be our history, and this history is what it's gonna do is create an empty list that it's gonna be putting there, or the things we put among the when we use the application. What I'm saying is that when we click on it, we're gonna have a list of all the things we did, and that's our first list. This list is for one thing. Then we have another list that is for the balance. What it's gonna do is gonna put our numbers and all of that stuff that we are balancing. Here we're gonna replace all the text in the global list with, in the segment we're gonna have this. We're gonna have these quotation marks, and when we replace something, we're gonna have a dot. And as you may see here in this screen, we have a button. This button, when you click on it, you're gonna return. Well, talking exactly about what this button do is that it's gonna close this screen and you're gonna go back to summary. And another thing I forget to set is that this web viewer, it's for our list, and this is our website we're having. That's why it's web viewer here. And that's all. I hope you understand. So that's all the things you need to understand for the expense tracker. So thank you for your attention.